Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Real Talk with Imagery and Ra. Mental health sounds like this, and I can't believe it. This is the 14th episode. We have like one more episode to go, guys, and you are in for a treat today because our guest is somebody who I just adore, and I feel like the stars have aligned. But before I go into any of that, before I tell you everything that is everything about this guest today, Rawia, hello, my love. How are you?
Hello.
Good to
I
see
love I
you.
love that you introduced me as Rawunia today. That was nice.
Well, that's because that's your actual name,
I know, I
you
know.
know,
Yeah.
and names matter, you know. I feel
Mhm.
it's one of the things that I was, I think we talked about this before I got married. It was one of the things that I really battled with when we got married because I was like, names matter.
Mm,
Pronunciation matters.
mm,
You know, the where we
mm,
come from lives in our name. So
mhm.
that's your
Yeah,
name. And
yeah,
I adore you. So here we are.
yeah,
How's your
yeah.
week been? What's been going on?
I feel a little bit bittersweet that this is like our second to last episode, to be honest.
It's
Like I'm
okay. We can have a
excited.
third season. It's okay. I believe in us.
I believe in us. But yeah, I've been really looking forward to this conversation and just being with you. I love this time that we have together.
Likewise, likewise. And I'm really excited to be joined by our guest today. As you know, this entire series is kind of in the preparation of the lead up to this coming Sunday with the release of my new book, Mental Health Sounds Like This. And, this whole thing is talking about singing and songwriting as it pertains to mental health. But what I don't think you do know, Ra, is that, well, I'm a huge believer that when you sort of put your, energy attracts energy. We all know this,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And so as I came to the idea of writing this book in the first place, and the name came to me in the car park of my old apartment building when I was talking to one of my girlfriends, Kimberly, and I was like, "This is it. This is what the book's about. This is what the book is called." Da 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 da. And then I'm not kidding. That when energy attracts energy, suddenly in walks this incredible goddess of a human being to my husband's Krav Maga school. And my husband's student introduces her as his wife and says to me, Emma, I think you and my wife would get along really well. She does everything that, like her path aligns very closely to yours.
stop it.
So,
That's how
right,
you met. I was
right,
wondering, and I love that story. It's
right.
so cool.
So she's a board certified therapist. She is a badass vocal coach. She is actually my vocal coach at the moment, and I'm taking master classes to
Mm.
make sure that I'm continuing my health journey, both internally and externally and vocally. And she's just a goddess in flesh, and I'm really excited for you guys to like get to know each other better and for us to have this conversation. So, without further ado, please put your hands together for the one, the only Jennifer Hamady.
Oh, that's
Yay!
you guys
Oh,
are so sweet. Thank you.
no, this is awesome.
I'm
Super
backstage,
excited.
sort of, I guess, backstage, sort of blushing and just, oh, I feel the love. I feel the love. Thank you. It's a joy to be here.
It's awesome to have you here, and I don't know, and I hope you take this as a compliment, but I've taken excerpts from, not excerpts, but like some inspiration from your book, The Art of Singing, as I sort of was refining and making sure that everything, fact checking my book. And again, I adore you, and I'm so honored to have you here.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you both.
Yeah, yeah. So to start off, I kind of gave you a little bit of an intro, but do you want to, for anybody who has no idea what the relationship between, specifically what the relationship between being a board certified therapist and what vocal coaching have in common,
Mhm.
and sort of give people an idea of who you are and why you do what you do?
Mhm. Happily. Well, in brief, I started as a professional singer and noticed in my own singing and in others' singing that so many seemingly technical issues were actually emotional ones masquerading as technical. And there was this collapsing of vocal presentation, physical presentation, breathing, and these emotional issues. The latter would manifest in the former. So after I'd written a book and toured for 15 years, I started a family, went back to grad school, and then incorporated the sort of academic side of psychology and counseling into working with singers and performers, because they're directly correlated. I would say about 90% in my experience of seemingly technical issues for singers, speakers, people in relationships are actually caused by some sort of emotional one.
Wow. Wow. It's so fascinating you sharing that, but like it makes so much sense to me because of like how we store emotion inside the body, and then how that kind of impacts like how we show up. I'm curious, like when it comes to this work, and you said like 90% of the people that you work with, that it is like an emotional kind of presentation, essentially, when it comes to their like technical aspects of their singing. Like, what is it that you most love about seeing kind of that shift between like how they're showing up initially to like what is possible when you finally work with them?
Well, I'd say there's two things. I mean, I think the starting with the first one is, I think most people, we walk around really imagining that we are expressing ourselves authentically, hopefully, right? Meaning that we think that we are showing what we think we're showing. And so the first thing I really appreciate is holding up a mirror lovingly and saying, I know you think you're saying and sharing and being A, but here's what it objectively looks like. And culture tells us that, right? We get feedback that we don't understand, that we don't like. So giving people the gift, even if it can be uncomfortable, of saying, this is how you're coming across. Whether you're a singer, this is what you sound like, whether it's a little nasal or a little flat. Or with my executives or clients, like, this is, you think you're coming across powerfully, but it's a little strident or a little aggressive or a little arrogant. So there's the honor of humbly giving people the gift of awareness. And then the second thing I think is the more beautiful one is really helping them reconcile who they genuinely are and what they genuinely want to say with what they're actually communicating. And when that alignment lands, and they not only feel themselves more reconciled and their breath relaxes and their posture straightens and they're comfortable and at ease, they then go out into the world and they get that feedback that they've always longed for. And then there's this sort of confirmation of, oh, who I am and what I've wanted to say, what I'm finally realized that I'm actually saying now is being received. And it's like the cycle is complete.
It's been really, so I love that you talk about the mirror, because one of the things that, I think we often see mirror reflections of ourselves and the people that we spend time with, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I have found really intriguing while working with you is that, yes, you're very embracing, you're very loving, you're very soft with that mirror, but at the same time, you challenge people to really safely explore darker spaces within their psyche, within their emotional wheelhouse, within their just those parts of themselves that they're so afraid to access. Like, as you and I discussed a few weeks ago, my lack of being able to be angry, which has always felt like an unsafe space for me. I'm so intrigued as to why people feel they need to hide those parts of themselves, knowing full well that I know where my fear of anger came from, but that lack of authentic expression, and so it shows up in so many different ways for so many different people. And I access my anger through songwriting, and I've struggled to do that through vocalization. But where do you think that comes from? Why do you think people front the way they do?
Well, that one question, we could spend an entire episode talking
Let's talk about it. Oh, you thought we came here to play.
No, but I know. So feel free to interrupt or redirect me if I go too far down that really important rabbit hole. But I think in a nutshell, this is part of why I love the somatic piece of psychology, that, whether it's singers, speakers, because when we're young, no matter what our experience is, I love the analogy of whether you put a drop of food coloring or a whole bottle in, it permeates the whole. So no matter what has actually happened to us, we have perceptions around what's happened, and our body and our minds create these, something's not right here, and therefore I need to be angry, or perhaps I need to not be angry, or I need to be perfect, or if I sing, people will like me, or if I'm quiet, if I'm funny, et cetera, et cetera. So I think as we grow, we might intellectually, therapeutically, personally realize that those things aren't working anymore, aren't necessary anymore. And ideally, we can lovingly thank them and let them go. But the body, those sort of automated reactions and holds and grips in our body are still perpetuating. They can't be undone through logic and reason and a talking to. So I think, Emma, if I'm answering your question, if you get into your 20s or 30s or 40s, I mean, I've worked with clients in their 70s that they still have these things and they can't figure out how to negotiate with them. And that's why I think that those things are there. And I think that what's so beautiful about physical work of any kind, breath work, physical work, vocal work, right? Any somatic work, is that you can go to those physical places and undo them.
Yeah.
I really love that you speak about the physical aspect of it all and being able to just, complete those cycles of experiences that people have navigated and gone through, because that's been a big part of my own personal healing journey. And so I went through therapy and talk therapy, and none of that worked for me. And for me, it presented in these action and behaviors that I didn't want to be doing, that I kept logically trying to change, right? But it wasn't until I went through a lot of the somatic work, such as breath work, becoming a qualified breath work coach, all of those things, that I actually started to fully complete that process and actually allow myself to show up in that authentic way. And I think that's a part that's massively missing across the entire space, really, is that part, the physical part, like the movement, like going for walks, you utilize the voice and singing, right? Like there's different ways, but there's this big I'm generalizing, right? Like a lot of people do focus on the mindset alone and consciously trying to change that thought, but still they're reacting the same way no matter how much they try and change that thought, right?
Yeah. It's interesting, if I can quickly jump in as you're talking, I think not only the modality is not ideal, the exclusively intellectual. I wrote an article a number of years ago for Psychology Today called The Ethics of Scheduling, and it was talking about, are these weekly, hourly sessions, whether they're lessons or breath work or counseling sessions, helpful or optimal, I should say. I think that life and culture and our busy schedules has had us sort of slot in what works best for scheduling, but not necessarily works best for healing. There are weekend long retreats that I've seen work miracles that 10 years of sort of counseling can't, because it's an intensive, you overwhelm the intellect. You don't give the brain a chance to kind of, re-lock in its fearful associations between every session. So we could go on and on about that. But yes, I think things have to be holistic in terms of timing, in terms of, experience. You can't chip away at it, bit by bit. You have to just overwhelm it in order to have a transformation, in my experience.
It's funny that this conversation's coming up now, because I literally had a coaching call this morning about the devils of scheduling. Like literally, and it was talking about how we're so, our mental health can be so severely impacted by the schedule, because we have a tendency to, overwhelm ourselves with all the practical things, that we don't give ourselves room for the holistic, breath, the
Yeah.
space, the time to just, as Julia Roberts so famously said, lay like broccoli. If you can tell me the name of that movie, you get a high five.
No, I can't, but I love it.
From Pretty Woman.
But
doing things like that just like, give your body and your soul's permission to breathe. So no, it's funny how that just came in literally 2 hours after I got a coaching call. Fun.
I mean, of course. And it's even the tick box, I think that's what came up for me when you were talking, Jennifer. It's like this like wellness being a tick box thing, right? But actually all that's doing is creating more stress, perhaps more feelings of anxiety. And like when you use like, is this helpful, right? Like, that question there, I think, is like a really powerful question that people can ask themselves, because like, what's the purpose of doing it?
Right.
Otherwise, like if it's actually not helping you to heal.
Yeah. Well, I find I don't know so much, I don't want to generalize, but I think many people, performers and others, I think sometimes, I'm just full on analogies today, but I always say that walking very slowly and purposefully and mindfully and gracefully toward your goal is better than running as fast as you can on a gerbil wheel. And I think that sometimes we think if we check, to your point, Rod, we check the box of, well, I went to therapy, or I went to my voice lesson, or I did my breath work, or I'm working on my to-do list, I'm doing all the things, I'm busy, busy, busy. We think sometimes that that's progress. And Emma, to your initial point, it makes us feel like we're running away from whatever that conscious or unconscious fear is. Like we're okay, we're okay. And standing still does not mean being stuck. And I think a lot of us think if we stop, then those things will catch up and grab with us and grab us. And so I think it takes patience to be patient, to stop and slow down.
As you're talking, so there are very brief times, and I recognize this about myself. I do have a tendency to be on that gerbil wheel, although the gerbil wheel does actually take me somewhere a lot of the time, so that's exciting. But whenever I step off the gerbil wheel and allow myself time to just exist and be and breathe, I've often found that I get this sense of, I want to say anxiety, but it's not anxiety. And I liken the feeling to being in a slingshot.
Okay.
And so the minute I sort of give myself permission to pause, to breathe, to express anger, to, actually rest and reclaim the voice that has been overshadowed by all the stress that I endure on a daily basis, I feel this sense of like pulling back. And I always know it because literally maybe a week or two later, something epic happens that it's almost like you're making space, right? For, your voice to show up, for your health to show up, for your aha moment to finally drop, for something. Have you had any experiences, either personally, professionally, or with your clients, where that has kind of shown up?
The slingshot piece specifically, or
just the final, well, I'm sure I know for a fact you've had many aha moments, but that sense of, I guess that sense of like, oh, I don't know if this is right. Should I be having a rest day? Should I be, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, personally, professionally, I think, again, we could do a whole episode on this one too. I think that our culture really does, again, confuse movement and progress. I think that this busy, 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 achieving, winning thing, this, you have to move from point A to point B to be successful. In my experience, having lived 50 years on the planet, is, in my humble opinion, is really not helpful. It's backward. I really think that, not to get a little too woo-woo, that really whatever we want to achieve, whether it's something intrinsic, internal, external, relational, personal, comes from being still. Stillness, in my experience, stopping the doing and returning to being, I think is the most important first step to achieving anything. And what it does when we're running, even if it, to your point, Emma, even if some of that gerbling is successful and gets us things, it's sort of like when I've worked with people that are very, very successful, and they get to that place after working their whole lives, and they go, oh my gosh, this didn't check the box. This didn't fill the hole. I have everything I said I wanted, but I'm not happy. I'm not whatever it is they wanted. That's a real blow. And so that to me is, I think, the best example or proof of this doing. I've rarely seen that make people happy, which I correlate not with happy, but peace, like a true abiding.
Mm-hmm.
I've only ever seen that extend from dropping the desire for doing, stopping even if the anxiety comes, because who am I if I'm not doing? And when finally, whether it's for a moment or, it gets longer and longer, when we can settle into being, from that apex of the mountain, you have this panoramic view of, oh, everything's possible through my intention, rather than the tension of doing.
I'm smiling so much because I love everything that you're saying right now. And that's been my own personal process and experience. And so, when you speak about being and being still and being present, like, it's my favorite place to be. And I really love it, because when you speak about that peace, like, for me, it comes in that space. And for me, it's with my personal relationship with God. And I've been that person who had everything, right, quote unquote, and was so deeply unhappy. And so, everything that you shared, like, I've been through that, and I can really understand that. And, I'd love to hear your thoughts around, like, what do you think gets in the way of people choosing to be still? Like, I know what that is for myself personally and professionally and with my own clients, but I'd love to hear your wisdom and expertise around that.
Yeah, I think in a nutshell, to drill it down to the fundamental core of it, is I think that people don't believe that we are inherently worthy. And if you'll indulge me with a real life example, I have a very dear friend of mine who lived in the Marshall Islands for 20 or 30 years. I can't remember how long he was there for. He's now in his 70s. And he still talks about that culture, his experience. I've never been, so, take this with a grain of salt. But he said it's really amazing coming back to the West after being there, because he says when a Marshallese child is born, there's a celebration of, you've not only arrived, but you have therefore succeeded. Like, you are enough. And now go into the world, and it's your playground. And I think we, in this sort of ever expanding West, I mean, it used to be in the rest of the world, I don't think we have that. I think it's sort of in the water, in our proverbial water, there's this, okay, you're here, now you've got to go prove yourself in some way. So I think, Ra, to answer your question, I think people resist stopping because it's like, well, I have to matter. I have to make it. I have to prove, I have to do, right? Don't I? I think that if we had a culture or a family, whether it's the culture at large or a personal culture, that said something different, like, stop, you're enough. We all are enough. It's okay. I think without that, we are literally swimming upstream against a very powerful tide, a cultural tide.
Yeah.
And I feel punched in the feelings now. Thank you. No, the reason I say that, first of all, you said it yourself, that sense of worthiness. I've got a single coming out at the end of this year called Worthy. So how's that for alignment? Because it's talking all about what you're talking about, breaking up with those adverse childhood experiences and recognizing that our worth is inherently ours. We don't have to prove. And of course, then you go on to talk about being born. And I love that about the martial arts islands. I've never heard that concept before.
Mm-hmm.
Having undergone my first surgery when I was 4 months old, I realized as I was writing this book, actually, a lot of my needing to prove myself is almost rooted in those experiences as a young person, trying to be like, oh, I survived because I need to prove something, or I need to help people, or like there's a reason behind this. And it's I think that kind of has informed a lot of our decisions, a lot of my decisions rather. And I feel that, in the conversations I've had with many other musicians, creatives, songwriters, entrepreneurs who have, succeeded in some capacity, have done so because they're trying to make up for things that happened to them.
Totally.
Or things that, their families have made them feel. Is there one piece of advice or practice that you can recommend for people who are trying to sort of break up with their shoulds and break up with their like less thanisms, and move toward, just the first step? I mean, obviously it's an ongoing journey that hopefully, because I feel like if you have reached the end of the journey, you're probably going to pass away. But life is for living and growing. But, is there one piece of advice that you can sort of recommend for people to get started on that journey towards self-reclamation of worth?
Yeah, well, I think that I love meditation and I love envisioning work. I love the power of going into our minds and imagining things. Just like what we eat, we sort of become what we consume. If we watch, in my opinion, a lot of violent TV, we think it doesn't affect us, but it does. And similarly, when we linger or dwell in nature and certain thoughts, I think that those really inform us at a cellular level, certainly at an emotional level, etc. So to answer your question directly, I think I would encourage people to do the imaginative work of first noticing. So the imaginative second, the first noticing. Notice how linked is my sense of self with external things. Because I think sometimes people, again, it's in the water. It's sort of like air to the bird, water to the fish. It's just everywhere, So just to notice that, just to notice how correlated that is. And then if that's problematic, the imaginative work, which might sound really crippling, but I think we can drop through the pain into freedom of, now who would I be without this thing that I am convinced gives me value? So for example, for singing, and actually I'm working on a book now about this exact thing.
Of course you are.
Yeah, I was about to say.
You want to talk about alignment?
Alignment.
Alignment.
That's the name of today's episode, alignment, y'all.
For you, Emma, for example, you're both many things, but we work in singing in part. Who would you be if you weren't a singer? If you weren't unable to sing, not for a traumatic reason, just to have people imagine, who are you without that? And when
I'm laughing because I feel like you've been talking to my husband behind my back, because he's posed that question to me multiple times. He's like, oh yes. He's like, we know who Emma G is. Who's Emma? Like, I'm like, oh, that's a good question. Okay.
I think that for many people, that inquiry is very traumatic at first. It's so traumatic. Yeah. The idea of it is so traumatic that they don't go there. And then when the inquiry starts, it's traumatic. But I feel like when clients have done that, when I've worked with people through that, they get to this, it's like, it's traumatic. And then they sort of drop through the veil and they feel like they're falling to their death, their egoic death. But what they find is they're not dropping anymore. They're flying and they're free for the first time, because it's like they never realized the weight of this burden of identification with something that is not even anymore a true joy, because we have to do that thing to be valued. So they not only experience themselves as free for the first time, they can turn and look at this thing whether it's singing or money or marriage or weight or whatever it is for each person, and go, oh my gosh, I've never seen myself clearly or you clearly. And they can finally experience themselves. And that thing is a gift for maybe an actual gift, unburdened by, necessity for perhaps the first time.
I love it. It's such powerful work being able to, let go of those identities that we've been holding on to really tightly. So I just love that you're sharing that. And I know that I have had so many internal transformations going through that same process myself, because it's something that I have done continuously for many years. And I always learn so much more about myself in that question of who is Rawinia, beyond all of those constructs that we have, right, which help us to, fit in the world. And it's like, well, if you didn't have that, then who would you be? So yeah, I really love that. Thank you so much for just sharing. I'm like, oh, there's so many things that you've said today that I'm like just smiling from ear to ear, because they're things that I also wholeheartedly believe in and share.
I love that this conversation moved into identity as well, especially after last week's conversation with Eli and his latest single about identity. Like, identity is just something that I think we talk so much about, mental health in this podcast, but I think we don't often realize how much that plays into how we show up for ourselves and how we show up for each other. So I just, again, the alignment, be real.
And can I share before we jumped on, I had a meeting with a business school of a university that I'm going to be giving a talk for. And just to show you how pervasive this is, the conversation back and forth and back and forth. I was listening because, I wanted to know, what is it you want me to share? And it was like, well, we want them to have confidence. We want them to have confidence. We want them to project confidence. We want them to project confidence. But we want them to be authentic. And we want them to be authentic. And we want them to be authentic. And they sounded like these totally different things. And I lovingly said, well, have you ever considered that if your context is that they're different, right? What if we imagine that they're the same, that confidence comes from true confidence, not arrogance, confidence, ease, relaxing and being comfortable in ourselves and therefore with others comes from being authentic. So it's just, we have these cultural stories, these expectations, I think, and I'm an optimist. I don't mean the culture is all screwed up, but there are these ways, these historical ways and waves of being that when we're born, we just get washed up in. And it's a challenge to see our way through them and to learn to float on those waves instead of, doggy paddling with exhaustion to some non-existent shore.
I love that. And I specifically love that because having grown up in Raglan, New Zealand, right by the beach, I often talk about, riding the waves. Just let yourself go. Let yourself roll with the waves. It's okay. Just trust the shore goes out, the shore comes in. It's all good.
Yes.
We roll with it. We roll with it.
Yeah.
I love this conversation so much, but you know what time it is, right? We could talk for hours and hours and hours.
Multiple episodes, like Jennifer said, right?
Right.
Happy to come back.
Season 3 is all about Jennifer Hamady. No, the best way for people to get hold of you is obviously your website, jenniferhamady.com, I think it is. Findingyourvoice.com. There we go. Yeah. With this beautiful picture of you. But you do all kinds of things. You've got books. You're a speaking coach. You are a vocal coach. You do all the things. You look like you want to say something. Please preach.
No, I don't want to. No, I'm just probably my mouth is moving in just joy. No, yes, I do. Someone asked me once what I do for a living, and I say I love people for a living. So yes, through that lens, I do all the things. I love supporting people in whatever way I can help support them to be their most authentic, self-expressed, and comfortable and at ease version of themselves they can be. So yes.
Back when I was a street performer, I used to tell people I sold love for a living. So there we go. We love for a living. That's legit what it is to be an artist and a coach, right, Ra?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Mhm.
cool. That's cool. Okay, so for anybody who is watching this right now and you want to know more about Jennifer Hamady, which of course you do, head over to findingyourvoice.com and hit her up about anything and everything to do with vocal health, to do with body health, to do with spiritual well-being. She is the human right here. And until next week, Ra, did you have any final words you would like to say?
Just thank you so much for your time and your energy, Jennifer. It was like such a pleasure to have you on and to just hear your thoughts, your wisdom, and the experiences that you've had with your clients as well. I know that a lot of people will have been able to see themselves in the things that you've shared, and that's powerful, right? Having that mirror, like you said. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. This was such a joy.
Likewise. And I look forward to seeing you very soon in person.
Yeah.
For everybody else, again, be good, be kind, spread love. And we will see you next week for the final episode.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
And the book comes out this Sunday. So
Yay.
we'll see you then.
Yay.
Be good, be kind, spread love. Have a great day, guys.
Caught